So the conceptual framework is just, okay, we developed the Forex appraisal metric, as you see in the middle, and we categorize the older people in the 4 groups that I'm going to tell you how we're going to use it, including the technology. And we look at the antecedent that make them to have falls. For example, the body composition, talk about the characteristic and comorbidity. And at the consequence, we look at the physical activity. Then one thing that we assess for it, I try to think what type of technology that we can bring to the community and possible for me to just carry by myself is not heavy and can provide the feedback for the older people to know that, okay, the Forex. So we call it breath. It's just a simple scale that they're standing on that, close their eyes, stay still and take about 1 or 2 minutes and then analyze the data. So the number is from 0 to 100. The highest score is mean high risk to falls. For example, 0 to 30, the score is mean low risk to fall. And then we provide the feedback immediately and they can know that that is a physical Forex or not. And for perceived Forex, we use just short FESI or for efficacy scale 7 items and ask them about the daily activity that they have to do. And then we categorize them as that to measure. The problem is a group of irrational is about 16% and incongruent about 25%. The group that not a lot of study look at that, it's overlooked. So we focus on that group because we don't want them. In the previous study, we found that if we do nothing, people can shift to the congruent group, even though 15%, but they have 3 times likely to fall more than the person in the other group. So how we going to prevent that to shift from the good group, it means the rational group. And we try to bring everyone to this group. So we have to aim to see the feasibility of recruitment and acceptability of using technology for the low-income older adult. And we look at the association between the 4 quadrants that just present with the physical activity and body composition. We have published a protocol that if you want to need more detail, you can go there, look at that. And these are wearable that we assess and the measurement are the tool that we use. Another body composition I talk is a tool that is simple, easy, that I can carry with me like a 5 pounds to the community. And if the participant can sit down, sitting test or standing or lie down, if they cannot sit, they can do any type of the test and we can assess several types, for example, body water, skeletal muscle mass, percentage, body fat, blah, blah, blah. We have on that too. Next, the hand grip state that you know already, we do some tests like that, and this accelerometers to monitoring 7 days. Then the preliminary data, we collect data from 124 participants. This confirmed with the previous diagram that I just showed you from my pilot study, and this from the RO3 or for this study. The percentage of each quadrant and the same, look similar because we use the same measurement, but we found out that the male tend to cluster in the rational group, but female spread it out all the 4 quadrants. And when we look at the physical activity, we found that as you compare with the rational group, that the ideal group that we want them to be, we found that they have the group in the irrational group and congruent group have the significance of the moderate to vigorous physical activity. What that means? It means that if we try to encourage the older people to have enough physical activity in the MVPA level, they can prevent them to shift from irrational to rational to irrational or rational to congruent. That is one thing. And another thing that's from this one, if you want to see more detail, go to e-reporter. One thing that lesson learned from this one, after we found the link between 4 quadrants with the physical activity, we developed the intervention we call the body and mind intervention. It means body is mean feedback based on the technology that I showed you, and mind is mean we understand how they think about their perceived for it, and then we play around with the try to align between their body and their mind together and how shift them. For example, they are in the group of rational, how we shift them back to rational, or the group of congruent, how we shift them back, or in the incongruent shift them back. And we found that in the pilot study for 22 participant control with the control intervention and control, we found that we can shift them back within 6 months. But in the control group, if we do nothing, they can shift to the bad group. So from that idea, we submit for the bigger grant from this idea, and we have some publication with this, and we submit to the RO1, it's bigger grant and it's pending. we hope we're gonna get positive feedback on that. And the second award we submit that not focus in the US, but focus in the low and middle income country, but use the same idea, but different strategy, because it have to be affordable for them to use, and use a community health worker to implement the technology, because they don't have enough healthcare providers. So we're looking forward to see how the result from that 2R1 that we submit. Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful. That's awesome, Lada. You've got a very robust project. So that's really great. So I know that when we first started here, we were having a little technical difficulty of getting everybody on board. So I just want you to kind of know where we're at right here. If you can turn on your camera, if you can go ahead and do that, that'd be fantastic. And we're still going to hear from one of our third panelist, which is going to be Zamina. I think Zamina's on here now. And then what we'll do is we'll just do a really, after Zamina goes, we'll just do a really quick introduction of any of the other Catalyst awardees that were able to join us this morning. So thank you for letting us go a little out of order though, so we could get everybody in the room. Zamina, are you here? And am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, I'm here, Lisa. Hi. It's
wonderful.
Jimena, but everyone says Ximena or Xmina, but it's Jimena.
Okay, wait, I'm going to practice. Jimena.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay. Whew, okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself and your remarks would be great on your project.
Perfect. Well, I'm Jimena Rodriguez Payeres, nutritionist. I'm right now director of the School of Nutrition and Dietetics of the Bernardo Higgins University. And I have been working in sport nutrition and nutrition in the elderly people. And now I am the 2022 Catalyst Award founded by the National Agency for Research and Development of Chile for the project Sustainable Food for Healthy Longevity. So if you see the photos, the problem that we have is the wholesale market in Chile. Is this center, they sell the horticultural fruit, vegetable food that generates 18,000 tons of food waste that is going to the landfill that is contribute to the greenhouse gas emission. In principle, this is food waste in leaves, stems, and products that not fit for sale. So that is one problem. And the other one, as you can see in the picture, is this food waste. And the next slide, please. And the other problem we have, we know that fruits and vegetables has a lot of health benefits, but according with our service, only the 15.1% in Chile, in the people over 65 years, consume at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. So we know that this low intake of fruit and vegetable is association with low consumption of fiber and vitamin C in older adults. And also, we have another problem here in Chile is the high prevalence and obesity and overweight in older adults. So the next one. And also, why is this moment to do this project? First, we have this inflation in Chile that is reaching high rates, increasing the food insecurity. Second, fruits and vegetable, the consumption generate fewer greenhouse gas emission, and the food waste impacts in the climate change. And third, we know that older adults here in Chile have less economic income and also have these physiological changes that are typical in this kind of population. So this is why, the next please, we came with the idea, the next slide. So we came last year, with our group research, designed 4 food prototypes from food waste. There are leaves, stem, and fruits. And we designed 2 soups and 2 compotes. And these also 4 prototypes were tasted by older adults and is incorporated into homemade recipes. And this year, we implemented the pilot plant inside the wholesale market to produce this new food inside this wholesale market in Chile. So this is the picture when the older people is tasting the food, and also me is in the picture, in the down picture, with this prototype, the soup and the compote made in this home recipe. So finally, we have 2 soups and 2 compote obtained. The next one, please. And this is a picture when this year we implement the pilot plant that is inside this wholesale market in Santiago de Chile. And this is a picture when we are producing the green prototype. The next one. So we have 2 big innovations. The first one is the environmental innovation, because we are recovering from food waste. And this food waste, there are stem and leaves, we are transforming into a new food, such compotes and the soaps. And thus is optimizing the circular economy, helping to reduce the impact of greenhouse gas emission. And from the other hand, this idea represents a social innovation, since this new food will be distributed for free to these older adults that are vulnerable, that they don't have money. So we can expand the food matrix of these older people with a healthy and nutrition food. The next one. The lesson learned is the first implement a pilot food processing plant inside the wholesale food market without a previous experience. This was our first experience. The second was characterize the leaves and stem, that there is no information available in Chile about calories, protein, fat, fiber. Third, the lesson that we learned was use this food waste to create a new food, that this food is healthy, with rich in nutrients, but we have to use an optimal cleaning process, because as you can see in the picture, they are on the ground, so we need to use optimal cleaning process. And the next. And now, what is coming? Well, is the implementation of the idea that this is a study when 25 older adults will given 1 prototype soup and 1 prototype compote for 2 months every day, and the other 55 adults they won't receive a prototype. So to see if this difference between the group with the prototype and the group with no prototype exists change, we're gonna do measures like anthropometric and blood sampling to compare the intervention between the group with prototype and the other group. And now the study was already approved by the University Ethics Committee. And now in November, we began to carry out the anthropometric measure and the blood sample. So the last slide. And this is my team, Fancy Rojas, Jairo Torres, Mario Castillo, Sebastián Correa, y Raúl Piñuñura. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jimena. That was really neat. I love the fact of going from food waste to something now that there's something nutritional to eat, and then you're really tapping into the social and environmental sides of things. That's really neat. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is I know that there probably might be some questions for our panelists. Would love to have the audience totally dialogue with us and participate in any questions so we can do a little Q&A time. If you happen to be a Catalyst awardee, then please, by all means, if you'd like to give just a snapshot of your project and ask your questions, then we'd love to hear them. You're welcome to just go ahead and chime in here, or go ahead and put your questions into chat. So either way works. While you all are thinking about questions, let's go ahead and let's talk about a couple of things. As a Catalyst awardee winner, let's talk about your biggest challenge throughout the whole process. I know for me, it was really finding the people living with dementia who are willing to participate. That wasn't an easy track. So for my project, I actually ended up working with the Dementia Action Alliance group organization who helped to push our survey out and get people engaged. But it definitely was one of our biggest challenges to find that user group. But what about the other panelists? Regis, you want to go ahead and pipe in what your biggest challenge that you encountered in the project?
Yeah, sure. For us, the biggest challenge is definitely the regulatory pathway. We are developing, it's a biomaterial platform. So that means that it can be as viewed as a medical device, a combination product if we add a drug, even a drug delivery device if the primary effect of the composition of the product is based on the medication. So it took us about 6 months to first decide if we head to the US first, or to Europe, or to Australia, or to wherever, to find the easiest pathway. And then finally, we aimed from the US, and then it was a question to degrade the technology to make it easier to pass through the FDA pathway, because obviously if you have a drug inside your product, it makes everything much more costly and lengthy. So that's why now we came up with a product that is classified as a medical device. And then we even found an indication that will allow us to go through the 510K pathway, which is the easiest pathway you can get in the world. But for that, we had to change our strategy, and to actually, as a, like my co-founder, Ulrike Kettenberger, who invented the product, for her, it was a kind of a big frustration, because she has to accept that you have to degrade a product that is getting amazing results, and to check if the product with, let's say, a version B is good enough for the patients, but also is your regulatory pathway, because then it's a lower cost, it's less time to get to the market, to the patient. So we found a good compromise, because the product that we have now will be very efficient, a bit less durable than the other product with the drug that was included. So that it was a drug called Zoledronate that will help actually get a more long-lasting effect to the bone strengthening for the osteoporotic patients. Because since it's a chronic disease, it's a cycle. You boost the bone quality, and then the disease still progress, and then you get later as the stage that it can break. And that's why I was keen to see your project, Lada, regarding prevention of falls, because this is the big issue. It's like first avoid a fall, and then you don't get a hip fracture. And then if you fall, then make sure that your bones can resist the fall. And I think all this strategy, and also for Alzheimer patients, it has always been known that it's a big issue. But for us, definitely the regulatory pathway was, it's the hardest one because it's a therapeutic platform, and that makes it very hard to get to the patient as quickly as possible.
Sure. And it sounds like you ended up having to pivot in the strategy side of it, which is no small feat of really moving this forward. Yeah. So I guess the new Catalyst awardees shouldn't walk into it thinking everything's just going to be a smooth passageway. As we can see already in just two of us speaking, there's definitely some challenges that you have to be willing to work around for sure. Lada, do you want to go ahead and give us your thoughts about the biggest challenge you encountered with your work?
Yeah, I have two major challenges. The first one is about interdisciplinary team. So we have 4 disciplines. I'm nursing, I have engineering, and I have kinesiology, and I have data science. So sometimes we talk different language. Like how you cannot, but we work in the same organization, so that's good. And then, but we try to compromise and talk and discuss. But it's good. Then we learn together and do start the way. And now we feel like we like each other, and then we want to work more or something like that. The second challenge is about the data collection, like Lisa, because I have collect data during the pandemics. And I plan to bring my technology to the older people house or in the site that I want to go. But then because of COVID and university not allow us to go, so I have to modify my IRB and set up my office to be the lab and bring them with us in the first group. And then after COVID is better, so we can go to the site. So then I can compare between the lab test and go to their site. But I like to go to their site because I want to see their environment, how they live or something like that, because impact about the falls too. So that's 2 things that I have.
Yeah, no, those are really great, because it's interesting, because I know in the initial session we were talking about paper prototyping COVID almost made you feel like you were going through this process where it's like, oh, I really need to get out there and talk with people, the end user. And yet COVID kind of really shifted that. But it, the pipeline, the continuation of it has actually got some real benefit to working that way too. I liked your thoughts about the interdisciplinary teams too. I always recognize there's a lot of acronyms that pop up from the different fields. So it's like alphabet soup. You're always trying to figure out, wait, what did you say? And having to go through that terminology. So very good. Great. Thank you for sharing that. And Hamina, do you want to go ahead and share your challenges on your project, please?
Well, the first one was making this new food from food waste that in Chile was, I think, one of the first experience to do that. So that was very challenging. And we start in pandemic. So that's what you're saying. And now on November, we start the challenge to give this food to the older people and try if we have difference, to give this food with that it's vegetable fruit with vitamin, antioxidant, and if we have any change in the group that it's gonna be eating the prototype soup that is salad and the compote that is from fruit. So we start now this trip, this travel to give them to the prototype. So we are excited to start.
Right. It's always exciting and exhilarating. And then it's such a learning process in such a good way. And sometimes it can be very tricky. So I think that the takeaways here for the new awardees really is to think through, your users and consider the regulatory processes and the strategies that you have. And here having to work in an interdisciplinary team, looking at always thinking about prototyping and these types of things of going through, and it's really a learning process. And it's like you're always learning and having to tweak and pivot and being open and willing to do that. So I appreciate all of you sharing. Again, I just want to make mention if anybody has any questions, I know that the panel is happy to take those. And by all means, if you are also an awardee winner, we'd love to hear from you if you'd like to share your project during this time. So just give us a heads up. So just another question, because I think everybody comes from a diverse area, either area in their research or area in who they are serving with their project. So let's talk about really where your work, your project actually is addressing a gap in the field. So let's just go ahead and start right back at the top. Regis, do you want to go ahead and give us your thoughts about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, if you look at the patients who have osteoporosis, they have two main issues. First, it's a disease that is underdiagnosed, because obviously it's like high blood pressure. It's you don't know you have it until you break a bone. And then when you break a bone, only 20% of patients are diagnosed with osteoporosis. So that's why now there's a huge effort from the pharma companies to increase the level of awareness in hospitals, so that they will check if you fracture bone when you are over 50 years old, that you don't have underlying osteoporosis. So that's the first treatment gap, but we cannot do much about it. The second one is like the patients will get the drug treatment, drug therapy, but unfortunately all these therapies are less efficient in the hip, because I guess it's harder for the drugs to get there and to have an impact. So the efficiency is only 50% fracture risk reduction after 18 months of treatment. And the problem is like 50% of patients drop out of the therapy after 6 months. Because again, it's like high blood pressure. You don't know that you don't see an effect of the drugs beside the side effects, which are not very welcome. And then you say, what the heck, why should I keep taking my drugs? And that's why we think our product will be a one-off treatment. You go, it's like going to the dentist, it's a bad moment. It's 20 minutes in an ambulatory setting. You get a bit of narcosis, a bit of local anesthesia, you get your injection, and then the body will harness its self-healing power to build back bone. So that's what we are trying to fill the gap, is the low efficiency, limited efficiency of the osteoporotic drugs and the one-off treatment.
That's wonderful. And we never talked about this before this session, but I've actually had bilateral hip surgery, and I can tell you, leading up to having that surgery, having struggles with your hips and having that is very, very painful. And I can only imagine, I was not over 50 at that point, but I can only imagine, because obviously falls are such a huge risk factor for our older adults. So this is very good stuff. So I personally even appreciate your project. So
Right. You can relate, yes.
I can very much relate, unfortunately, but it's good now. So it worked, but it was a long haul. Lada, do you want to share?
I continue from Regis about the fall prevention, because I have a direct experience from my relative who fell and have fracture and stay in the hospital until cannot go back home and die in the hospital. That is not good story, but it's my personal. But a lot of people have put like that. So how we want to prevent? So my research, the gap is the screening part is very important. So my research focused on the primary screening in the prevention before it's happened. So we encourage everyone older adult have a chance to screen for it maybe one time a year. But you know how many people have the chance to do that, especially the people who live in low income. They don't have a chance in their life. Some people don't have a chance to assess for it yet. So my study found that less than half, 50% of people have experienced assess for risks. So why we want to fill the gap? Because the gap is we want everyone to have a chance to assess for it at least one time in a year, if possible. And what the technology help with if technology we can bring something to help them to assess for it. At the same time, we provide the feedback to let them know, okay, you have this level of for risks. What you gonna do? So it means the technology can help them not only assess for risks, but can help them and help us to tailor intervention based on their risks. And then they can follow up every year. So the technology that we use is memorize all the data and provide feedback every time they come back to assess for it, and empower them to know about their for risks. At the same time, they can take care of themselves. That is the thing that we try to fill the gap here. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. Yeah, that fall risk is a big deal, definitely. Jimena, did you want to share what really the gap in where your project really fills the gap in your field?
Well, with the insecurity, the food insecurity, we need to give to the people, principle to the older people, the food, but it's a nutritional food rich in vitamin, antioxidant, and we need to, they have this healthy longevity, but until now, all the people have this research or the money to buy good food. So the gap is how you can feed the people, and also what you can do with the food waste. So we have like two gaps, like the food waste and insecurity food. So now we are going to start the project. So, but we see these two gaps that we have to work.
Right. And definitely this can expand to other countries. I know, like food deserts. I mean, those are certainly real things in neighborhoods throughout the world as well. And really combining those two is really pretty fascinating. And I think that, you know, being able to eat nutritionally certainly can help older people, all people. I mean,
all people, yeah.
On and on and on with that for sure. So very appreciative of that. Yeah, for my project, it's not always easy to reach people living with dementia, as I was talking about in the trying to find those users. More so, that's really kind of interesting though is you know, a lot of older people want to live in place, including people living with dementia, and their care partners would like to see them live in place. However, it seems that our whether it's research or some of the things that get implemented in this field are very geared toward long-term care, when it's actually a very small percentage that ends up that are in long-term care. A lot of people are still living in place. And I think that, you know, as smart home technologies continue to proliferate and people consider integrated smart homes, and of course this all takes time, you know, how can we continue to work with our virtual assistants that get created to learn from us and the way we live, and also for people living with dementia not have to be prompted because, do I dare say, hey, Alexa, she's probably going to come on now. But I mean, you know, people living with dementia may or may not be able to do that. So how else can we go ahead and trigger conversational prompts to off of our AI that can interact with folks and kind of really consider those places so that the apathy doesn't set in, or depression, or different things, and we can try to kind of raise that bar and give people some, well, essentially some psychological uplift, if you will, throughout the day through reminiscence intervention, which has been shown to be very strong in helping people living with dementia. So definitely it sounds like in all of our challenges that we went ahead and tackled, that there's a lot of need in our field that we all decided to jump in there and say, hey, can we at least showcase something that definitely can make a difference, or all three of you really taking it so to that next level and getting out there. It's all very impressive. Let's talk a little bit about the team, because I think we did talk about the interdisciplinary team earlier. I think that was Jimena that said that, was talking about one of you. I might have that wrong, but let's talk a little bit more about your team makeup and how did you really find common ground, if you will, between the different disciplines, the users. I mean, how do you pull all that together that you can share out to the new awardees that maybe it would take, it's helpful advice, I guess I'll say it that way, and hopefully they would be able to kind of consider that. Regis, you want to go ahead and start us off again?
Yeah, sure. I think what is key is diversity. Not just diversity between male and female and so on, but between experience, different domain of expertise. And for example, I was introduced to the inventor of Flowborn through a common friend, a professor at the EPFL. And that's how we decided to join forces, because she was a scientist, worked 6 years at the EPFL at the university, and had a background in business for the last 25 years. So in the end, it makes sense to say, hey, we have to put our strengths together, and then we needed to find the right people to extend the team. And then we looked for competencies, hard skills, like experts in regulatory, quality, and so on, and then soft skills, to make sure that you also complete the team with different characters, because you don't want to have a kind of, you say that in English, you know, like twins in terms of characters. You want different guys. So we recruited a chairman that is the opposite character of myself, who is acting as CEO, to make sure that we can counterbalance some kind of instinct or kind of a different view on reality. And in the end, it makes everything very exciting, but also a bit more difficult, because obviously you work with people that maybe are not your friends, or that people that, you know, you don't have the same view on things. So it makes sometimes a debate quite, how you say, hot.
I think that's a good word right there. And I think it's important too for the awardees to know, you know, sometimes the conflictual nature, we'll call it that, in the communication can actually really spark some interesting new thinking and innovation out of those conversations. So the diversity is good. And then just like you mentioned, the soft skills are very, very important to be able to communicate and make sure everybody's voice is heard in that diverse makeup. Lada, did you want to add to this?
Yeah, I would like to think about, because this is a start project for us, then how we gonna build a long-term relationship with the team. So I like to look at the person that I'm happy to work with and easy to communicate and can have productive without any burden. So when I start, I clear myself first. I write a specific aim page, 1 page, and have specific aim, the idea, and send to them, the person that I'm interested. How I look at the person, I go to the site and look at the CV and expertise. Okay, that person feel the expertise. For example, I want to use technology. I'm not familiar with that. I invite engineering. They have a lot of faculty in the engineering that I can work with, but I look at the person who have continuing publication. I have new idea, and I go talk with that person and see I'm okay with that. I feel I have common sense a little bit when I talk with people, because I know, oh, this people, okay, I can work with. And then I start to ask and share my idea and invite. And then we start to get small grants from the university to work together or something like that. And then we have a few grants together, maybe 4 or 5 already, that can continuing. So I feel like if you can build a team as a friend, but it's not only friend to talk something, but talk in the content that you want to talk with, and easy. Sometimes we have to work at night and call that person, can you look at this? And person is still available and respond to your email. It means you're happy, but it doesn't mean we have to burden that person and that person not burden us. That is very important thing, you know? So I feel like if you build a team like that, and then you still want to do research with that person continuing, then you don't need to looking for somebody else in that topic. That is my suggestion.
Right. So it's almost like you brought people together that knew the kind of the type of work ethic and that you wanted to have in that team culture. And yet at the same time, they had complementary thoughts. They had the things that they could contribute, ideas they could contribute, or that. But the way they worked was essential for you to continue to move forward. Okay, good stuff. Jimena, do you want to add to it?
Yes, I think, of course, the diversity is good. And that's when you have a different kind of people working together. And the problem you can see from different sides. I mean, I'm nutritionist, we have an agronomist, we have a food engineer, we have 2 persons from biology. So this food waste and this older people problem, we can see like a complete thing and not just for pieces. So this is the first thing important of diversity. And the second is we are like a team, we're like a family. So this project, it's like everything for us. So it's not only work. I mean, also this family, like working together, and just what I say, you see the problem from different sides. And I think that it's really, really important in our group.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that. So kind of seeing the team as a family and having that's a whole different type of team culture. It's very startup entrepreneurial, you know, you pull everybody together. And I always kind of say you hit the dirt together, you know, trying to figure out how to prove or disprove this idea that you have through prototyping. And certainly can be a rush. It's really good if you can have team synergy for sure. Well, my experience was a tad bit differently, but it kind of interesting. So the person that I work with, Ty, he and I had actually worked in entrepreneurial ventures for about 20 years. So we would have projects and we would come together. So we had I am going to call it this, the luxury of actually working together. So he's a systems architect and an engineer, so we were able to come together on that. But it's great. But what you have to be careful of is that you don't end up developing in a vacuum. So we instantaneously jumped out there to the users. I know that I sound like a broken record here, but we did jump out to the users. Where we are now is we have worked with some Texas State researchers to really consider activities of daily living. And I have now a foot in both sides and have for about a decade, but in academia as well as in the marketplace. And I can tell you there's some real power, and I think Ray just mentioned this, of really working with researchers in the university and folks that are willing to jump out there and interact with those end users in the industry or in the marketplace. So ours was getting a baseline down and then building off of that. So as you can see, there are lots of different ways to building a team, but what's really important is to pull that diversity together, because you want to really be able to twist that box and think new ideas and be able to pivot and see things, as Hamon said, about different perspectives, and that's just really super essential. We have about 3 minutes left. So I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? Does anybody have any quick questions that they would like to ask the panelists? I don't want to leave without checking with the audience, see if anything pops up there. If not, I'll ask the panelists just if you don't mind to give us kind of your parting thoughts, some words of encouragement, anything you really want to offer out to the awardees that are listening, or hey, for the rest of us, because all this is good stuff to get together and talk about, because we can all take a page and go, oh yeah, that's right, I remember that, and those are some challenges or great things I went through. So just some parting thoughts, or if the audience has any questions. Regis, do you want to kick us off there?
Yeah, I think in the previous talk during the conference, somebody said be pragmatical and take off from your papers and go out, experiment. I think here I will go to the other stages. Like, if you believe in what you're doing, take the risk and go for it. Just don't hesitate, because life is too short. So just enjoy what you're doing and then just give it a try, and then just have a plan B in case you need to find a place to sleep in or to eat pasta or whatever, but go for it.
Excellent. Go for it. That's one great piece of advice. I love that. Lada, do you want to add to it?
I think, yeah, agree that go for it and don't give up. If sometimes they have obstacle not a lot, then keep going. Don't feel like that. If everything possible that you can do it. Okay, thank you.
I like that. So keep going. So not only go for it, so now you're jumping out there, but keep going. And so that's important. Jimena, what would you like to add in there?
And also, I think the word innovation. What do you think you think is right? And if you fail, well, you can do it again. So
I love that. Mistakes happen. Yeah. Yes.
And you have to try again and try. And at the end, you're gonna make it. So go for it. Right. I think is the slogan.
That's right. I mean, think of it this way, you're right. If we all knew the answers to everything, then we'd be able to frame the problem perfectly and have these perfect answers. But since we're all not perfect, well, it won't work on that piece. I'd like to sum it up by embracing ambiguity. That can be, the unknown, the uncertainty, and just, piggybacking on everybody else's. The sooner that you can embrace it and know that's going to happen, and know that it can be an uncanny feeling because you don't know, but you're willing to, I'll use your words, go for it, keep going, be innovative, be willing to pivot and doing those things, the more that you can really kind of just roll through it. And as you said, get it to that, well, whatever the end goal is, which also sometimes can get redefined in the process. So, I think we heard that. Well, unless there's any last minute comments or questions or anything, we really appreciate all three of your wonderful contribution to this conversation, and appreciate everything that you've done with the award, and wish you the best. So thank you very much. And thank you to the audience. We appreciate you and glad you were able to come into the session.
Thank you, Lisa, for the moderation. Bye.
Thank you for
Thank
all
you so
guys.
much.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.